What infuriates you about education technology?
Is it how opaque it can be, requiring professional development seminars to figure out even the simplest functions? Is it the Silicon Valley prices that ignore the reality of poor educational investment across most of the world? Or is it a dependency on the cloud that makes the system unusable if you don't have first class internet connectivity?
Some of us can work around these limitations through a lot of time and money, but most teachers don't have that option. Most of the world has been left behind by the edtech revolution.
Our platform, Agavi, will change that.
I teach geology, astronomy, and physics labs. For me, the most important thing is to stop students from progressing if they don't know what they're doing. I don't know how many lab reports I've gotten where it was clear students didn't set up the experiment correctly, got bad data, and then are struggling to answer the questions I've asked. I'd love to be able to stop students and give them feedback if they've set up their experiment incorrectly and guide them through that process step by step rather than hoping they figured it out correctly on their own and collected good enough data to answer my questions.
In Agavi, you'll break your labs and other activities into individual tasks. Tasks can then be individually evaluated to determine how students did and where to send them next based on their performance by linking them together in an experience. What's a task? A task could be to read some text and answer a question. But let's get more creative. How about asking students to go to a particular GPS location? Or asking them to orient their phone in a particular way to measure angles or cardinal directions? What about interfacing with an external sensor to make sure students learn how to use their lab equipment correctly and then actually use it instead of guessing their way through an activity? Imagine what you can build when you start thinking about your phone as an agent in its physical environment rather than just a portal to digital content.
The hardest thing about teaching online is not really understanding what your students are doing. Now imagine that you have set up your lab for the day. You have your lab room, you've set up all the equipment on the lab tables, you've handed out all the worksheets that have all the instructions and all the questions they're going to answer. You even put up a PowerPoint presentation that's going to tell them what they're going to be working on. Then you walk out the door and tell them to text you if they have any problems. You're not going to be able to see how they've used the equipment, what they've previously tried, what they're working on now, and you wouldn't even be able to overhear conversations that are helpful for understanding what they're discussing with their lab mates. Now, who would want to teach that way? That's what our digital systems currently force us to do.
In Agavi, you'll have real-time analytics that will give you that eagle's eye view of the class that is critical to teaching. See where your students are right now, who's active and who's not, who's asking for help and where, and then quickly pull their activity stream to understand what they've previously done. Even hop in on conversations around the activity to see if they provide more insight into what's going on. You can't help until you know what's wrong. And we all know that students can be pretty bad about communicating where they're stuck and what they've previously tried.
If there's one thing the pandemic has shown us, it's just how big the digital divide is. I'm currently working in the US Virgin Islands, where internet and electricity outages are common, which leave a lot of my students, and sometimes me, unable to access our digital classroom. This isn't the only place. This happens all over America far more frequently than we'd like to admit, and it's even more common elsewhere in the world. And I've seen and experienced it firsthand in places where I've worked in Ukraine and Eastern Indonesia. We have to do better so that so many people are not constantly left out of the edtech revolution.
Together, we're building Agavi and we need your support. We believe that knowledge can grow even in the harshest learning environments. We just need to have the right tools. Help us hit our May 2021 deployment target. Join us in this journey as a teacher tester, a developer, or a financial supporter, and together we can bring digital education everywhere.